By now, I have a few resume videos and I still keep getting questions. What does that mean if I'm a senior? Let's jump into it. As you can see on my screen, I immediately have a great example of senior UX designer resume, and why I liked it so much was these progress bars, because they're just amazing. Every senior should know, which is a kept secret from all the juniors, that you must add as many ambiguous type of progress bars as possible, because it just makes it look good. And now that I have that out of the way, let's jump into the actual thing. And this is typically what the senior resume is going to look like. Even someone who's actually going to try to get into senior role. So if you're a midweight, you kind of need to display all the qualities of that next band or that next role. If you are, let's say, a senior already, but you're looking for a lead role, hands-on or team lead, or maybe a manager position, you kind of need to showcase what that other role is. It's not just about what you did in the past. It's really what are you actually capturing and what you are selling of what you're going to do in that next role. Let's say in one position, you could be very heavily invested in A/B testing something. In another position is going to be ethnography research. In another position is going to be super design systems focused work. Maybe there's going to be a lot of leadership oriented work where you're coaching a lot of juniors, because just every position, every client, every company is going to have their own maturity levels and their own kind of situation. You could be assisted with 2 designers or a design team of 1. It's going to look very differently, but you're going to capture a lot of those evidences and anecdotal statements, which you can add. Now, the issue with that is that people then start to put all of them at once. So I have these, by the way, are fake ones, so they're not real people, but they're the templates which are very representative of what, typical resumes look like. So people start listing out everything they did. Don't. What you need to do is to tailor and show the relevant bits for that future employer. And 99% of people watching this, doesn't matter what seniority you are, you're going to ignore it. I know that. But that 1% is definitely going to take it in and kind of understand this. And I hope that maybe 2 or 3% actually, let's hope for the best, is going to actually take this out as a one of a call to action. But you don't need to just list it out like a Bible of what, like itinerary of everything you did. Look at the job spec which you're applying for, because it's going to list out the things they need. 2 years ago, you were a midweight at this different company, and their specific position right now calls for A/B testing specifically, or something like a behavioral change. And you did that in the past. You should highlight it and bring it up. List out only the things which are relevant and also which are basically outcome based. Just like in other videos, if you achieved something, if there was OKR change or improvements on things, if there was some sort of positive behavior change in the users, or maybe acquisition of the users, or something else improved in numerical, measurable things, you must call that out. Doesn't matter what you apply for, because that's going to show that you're actually senior enough and you understand the strategy, organizationally minded as much as you're minded about your craft of a UX. People run out of space, like let's say this resume you see on my screen, and then they try to add additional pages or things of that nature, which simply run out of space. You could literally just list out the most recent roles or the ones which resonate and say, there's more, check my LinkedIn. On my resume, let's say, I literally have just a few, like 3 or 4 different positions of just the relevant bits, and then say, if you would like to find out more, give me a ring or check my LinkedIn, which has, more positions, more clients, let's say from my consulting days, things of that nature. Don't give someone else work to do. Do it for them and UX your resume. Especially as a senior, you must do that. Anyhow, next one, which is a bit of a red flag, I think, and something you could definitely improve on, is the short commitments. And I don't know if these resumes actually represent that well. Maybe it's just that 1-year gig. And I know tech in general, the commitments shrink, and we're becoming more and more nimble, and it's easier to change jobs. So who knows what's going to be like in the next year or in the next few years. But for now, having short commitments could mean one thing, that you're contracting or you're just not staying long enough to actually make a difference organizationally speaking. And this is purely for seniors, because as a senior, it's not just about what outputs you produce in your project or what outcomes you get to your product team or the business. It's also like, how do you integrate well within the business, how you communicate, evangelize, evangelize, establish design organization, contribute to a maturity, things of that nature. You grow your influence, basically. The short commitments don't allow for that. Like, it takes a lot of bloody time to actually make a difference in any organization. I'll get a lot of questions asking from people like, oh, what should I do if I have a few months of commitment and I need to leave because it's not good enough? Well, leave, but be prepared to answer a question in the interviews or screening calls. Highlight exactly why you left. Don't hide it. Be transparent, but you have to have a good reason and communicating it well as well. Not just saying, hey, it didn't work for me. Well, who knows if this next one is going to work out? So you need to present yourself well and kind of think about it. And another spin to this is also that the commitment within the companies and if you progress within a company. And I think this one kind of illustrates it well, like going from UX designer to senior manager. Well, maybe manager wouldn't be that. So this is, I'm just going to remove that from the template, but you get to the point, kind of going from UX designer to senior UX designer kind of makes sense. It means you climbed out, you did more than what's expected. That is a good signal that you actually stayed long enough to make a difference for yourself and for the company. Usually it's both. In general, internal promotions over external jumps means more resilience, means more buy-in, means a bit more loyalty for whatever that could mean. If in doubt and you think like, oh, should I make this jump? Think long term. Don't think just about what immediately is going to answer your needs, because that's also going to change. Sleep on it and then make that decision. Also, majority of seniors, and probably you watching, are working on cases which are basically NDA restricted. So you're not going to be able to share much anyways, then you need to move on. Showcase what you actually did in the past to convince someone. So passion projects, the public speaking, participation in communities, things of that nature, anything which basically you do as an extra. So you invest your time today, a few minutes a day maybe, so that in the end, when it comes down to those decisions in the future, you actually get some returns. And there's a good book on that as well. It's called Forever Employable by Jeff Goffel, the author of Lean UX. And in that book, there is of course too much to outline in just a few minutes, but it basically summarizes how you need to think ahead and invest your time today. So again, you get the returns in the end and be forever employable. Listing passion projects or projects from the past is a good idea. And this is more so, I guess, a call to action for anyone who wants to step up or needs that evidence. Because a lot of midweights need to show that we did some senior stuff. A lot of seniors, if we want to go to better pastures, whatever we are, they need to show off that better pasture methods and work and, exemplary evidence, which would show that you can do that work. Now, next one is actually glossing over experience. And again, a lot of this could be illustrated here because these are actually very excessive, by the way. Again, if you apply for a research heavy role, try to extract things which were research heavy. Unless it states that you're going to be a generalist in that next role, then you kind of need it all, but still be specific, or as specific as you can. And you can do research, you can find out exactly what the maturity is like, you can ask questions of the recruiters, which also shows initiative. If you see a job spec, don't just apply and leave it to it. You can literally message someone on LinkedIn and say, I applied for this position, can you tell me a bit more? These are the specific, and keyword is specific, questions I have. Can you give some more information on that? And then you can tailor your resume and say, hey, I think I can give you a bit more because I also did that in the past. You can resubmit your resume, or even have a chat and build a relationship with a recruiter. So even if you don't get that role, they know of you for the future. And trust me, recruiters remember, because it's their work. They are the ones who are depending on you. Besides that, one of the last bits to highlight is glossing over the experience as well, which maybe is contradictory to what I said before. But sometimes if you're a senior and you did maybe decade long, or maybe did something half a decade to decade, or maybe more years, could be 20 years of experience, you're gonna collect so many cases which you might not think about twice. For example, I spend a lot of my start of a career in startups or small agencies, with just a few people basically. Went into more scale-ups, more corporate world, and then I kind of forgot about it. And I stopped using it. And I realized just the other day when I was needing that example, oh, do I have that experience? I was like, okay, I do have startup experience where we went to acquisition, and during my time there, and I was a design team of one and, did a lot of stuff basically. And I was like, oh, I do have that experience. It just was years ago, so I totally forgot it, because the recency factor and this bias is what kind of keeps us focused on what we can do today. And you think again that it's relevant for that specific opening or that opportunity, that industry, bring it up. And naturally, as a senior, again, you're going to have 10, 20 entries. Your resume could be endless, literally, if you list everything out. So you must be selective, and you must pick just the points which are relevant to that, and which highlights, you in the best light, ultimately. There's even more stuff I could show you. If you're interested, do let me know, but take it in mass, have your own thoughts, make your own decisions, and go from there.